is, I believe, the order copy also with him. So, Anand, go ahead, walk us through what has been said.
Well, thanks. Quickly taking you through, there are multiple points and it is exactly what Justice Chandrachud read through. If you can zoom in, and I'll actually try and see if I can enlarge this further. Yeah. These are the point 14 is where it starts saying that the state of Jammu and Kashmir does not retain any element of sovereignty after the execution of the IOA, Instrument of Accession, IOA, and the issuance of proclamation dated 25th November 1949 by which the Constitution of India was adopted. The state of Jammu and Kashmir does not have internal sovereignty which is distinguishable from the powers and privileges enjoyed by other states of the country. Article 370 was a feature of asymmetric federalism and not sovereignty. That's what it says. The petitioners did not challenge the issuance of proclamations under section 92 of the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution and article 356, the Indian Constitution. So, and then they say the challenge to the proclamations does not merit adjudication because the principal challenge is to the actions which were taken after the proclamation was executed. The exercise of power by the president, this is 14C, after proclamation under article 356 is issued in subject to judicial review. The exercise of power by the president must have reasonable nexus with the object of proclamation. The person challenging exercise of power must prima facie establish that it is a malified or extraneous power, extraneous exercise of power. Once the prima facie case is made, the onus shifts to the union to justify the exercise of such power. But here they are saying that the exercise of such power is not malified. The power of parliament under 356 to exercise powers of legislature of the state cannot be restricted to lawmaking power, thereby excluding non-lawmaking power of the legislature of state. Such an interpretation would amount to reading in a limitation the provision contrary to the text of the article. Okay. It can be garnered from historical context. The inclusion of article 370 and placement of 370 in part 21 of the Constitution, that it is a temporary provision very clearly. Power under article 373 did not cease to exist upon the dissolution of Constituent Assembly in Jammu and Kashmir when the Constituent Assembly was dissolved. And very clearly article 370 cannot be amended by exercise of power under article 371D. So there are certain, this is the important part, point H. The exercise of power by the president under article 371D to the issue to CO 272 is not malified. The president in exercise of power under article 370 can unilaterally issue a notification that article 370 ceases to exist. So that's exactly, and saying the president did not have to secure the concurrence of the government of the state or union government acting on behalf of the state government under the second proviso to article 371D while applying all provisions of the constitution to Jammu and Kashmir, because such an exercise of power has the same effect as an exercise of power under article 373 for which a concurrence or collaboration with the state government was not required. So this 14H is the most important point, because the presidential order has been upheld, saying the intent was not malified. The president did not need ratification from the Constituent Assembly or the Legislative Assembly as was challenged. Neither did it want union government ratification. That it was subsequently ratified by parliament is another aspect, but the president action was not malified and the president could have revoked article 370.
Okay, so that's the order copy, in a sense validating what the CJI, while he read out the operational parts of the order, but the Prime Minister has also tweeted, and like I said, he has said that today's order goes beyond just the legal ambit. It's not just a legal order. It is a beacon of hope. It is the foundation to build a Naya Jammu Kashmir. Sushil Pandit is also here in our studios. Sushil Pandit, we've been hearing this for the last 4 years that we are building a Naya Jammu and Kashmir. In that context, what does today's verdict mean?
I think it's an inflection point. We've left behind Article 370 and all the debate and argument, recriminations on it. We can now comfortably look ahead. Any residual consternation or opposition is irrelevant, has been rendered irrelevant by the courts, and it will wear off, especially when the truth catches up with these parties at the time of elections, when they'll be held responsible for all the issues that come up and where they'll be positioned in a very disadvantageous corner trying to defend their record on India's integrity, India's security. For now, I think Supreme Court has spoken finally, and they have the final word on most contentious issues in our democracy. And we can comfortably look ahead to towards elections now and many more issues. I don't think this will ever become an election issue unless opposition shoots itself in the foot and tries to make it an election issue.
Yeah.
It will be an election issue, of course, for BJP to crow about, but not a contentious issue as to what is to be done with it.
Let's also see, I mean, I'd be very interested in seeing on the election campaign the stand taken by the likes of Omar Abdullah's party and Mehbooba Mufti's party on the verdict and their own, decades-long positions when it comes to autonomy/self-rule. But Rahul, let's also be very, very clear. I mean, you're going to see a lot more of this hashtag Naya Jammu Kashmir. A lot of BJP folks are going to be tweeting about it. But it's not like the terrorism problem has been solved in the valley. As we saw just a few weeks ago in Rajouri Poonch, how there were officers of the army being attacked. So that problem has still not been resolved. So what does this mean when you say hashtag Naya Jammu Kashmir? Yes, there is evidence to show that the terrorist incidents have come down in the last 4 years since the abrogation, but it is far from normal.
Well, first of all, we are up against an implacable enemy in Pakistan and its cohorts. They are religiously motivated, but at least look at it from the other perspective. We can now isolate the problem. From a political articulation of policies, we can now no longer look at it as a political problem. That is, there was to begin with, a sense of a separateness, a separate identity for the people living in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, this resolves very fundamentally on the ground in two different ways. Number one, with greater political integration, you will have the writ of the Indian state applying there fully, which also means that there will be security of tenure for business, for capital that moves to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. There will be a large number of other people from other parts of India who will want to go and work in Jammu and Kashmir. You will see, therefore, a change perhaps even in the cultural mores of the state. You're already beginning to see, Zaka, film halls reopening. You're beginning to see cultural revival taking place there at a religious level. You are beginning to see Shia parades during their important functions taking place. You are seeing the beginnings of the rejuvenation of Hindu culture in the state. So the entire overview, the topography really of the state, psychologically, politically, will begin to change. Terrorism will remain. It is going to be a problem, and let's also face it, today terrorism is not just confined to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan has been able to leverage through its various agencies other people in different states, and we see some of those acts of terror that take place in different parts of the country.
All right, I'm going to take a break, but before we take that break, I'm getting the first